What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the very first newly minted, rebooted, redone, cap tables redesigned, board is restructured, company mission rewritten, intact episode of Playconomics. I'm one of your hosts, Bobby Kawecki, and joined with me today, as always and forever, Matt Mascari.
Is this guy Matt Mascari?
Yeah, wouldn't even let me introduce himself.
Nope.
Wouldn't even let me introduce him. Guys, you might be wondering, where did we go for almost 3 months? Well, Matt got married. I had another kid. I moved houses. Matt got a haircut. And during that time, you saw the explainer video, but if you're just tuning into the audio feed here, we figured we'd give you an update.
Yeah.
We're changing. News 100%. Is something that we've been covering for almost 2 years here on the channel. And something we like doing, but is also not where I feel and Matt feels that we get the most meat out of our topics. And that's where we wanted to pivot. Matt, take it away. What do you want to tell the people? What are we doing?
So what we decided to take it away to is that we are going to break down the business behind your favorite video games, but we're going to do so by discussing individual topics. And I, or Bobby, is going to try to convince the other one of that topic and of their stance on the topic. A famous argument on the Playconomics podcast is the debate between Game Pass. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it the best thing to happen to video games? Is it the future of video games? Or is it the absolute second coming of Lucifer and ruining everything we know and love about the video game industry?
Yes. At the end of each episode, we'll have to come down to decide, is it a yes or a no? Did we prove our business thesis or not? And Matt, what are you trying to get me on your side with today? Is it Game Pass?
I wrote a whole ass script for this, so we're going right into it. Today, we are deep diving into a fantastically fascinating topic. How does the video game industry gauge success? We'll explore key metrics used to measure success, including sales figures, gross revenue, critical reviews, and player satisfaction. Join us as we uncover the financial and critical benchmarks that define a hit game and discuss the ever-evolving standards of success. And while I give you the financial context for this industry trend, I'm going to be convincing Bobby that video game success should be considered based on these factors: 50% on sales, 35% on longevity, 10% on critical review, and finally, 5% on revenue. Potentially getting him to agree that my
So you're basically
hold on.
Your thesis is that the money a game makes is not the most important part of what makes it successful.
No. Because we also have 50% of sales and we'll get into the difference between how I'm considering sales and revenue.
So you're putting the system on trial.
I'm putting the whole system on trial. So I'm saying it's sales, longevity, critical reviews, and then finally overall revenue, because we're going to get into the difference between the top 10 selling games and the top 10 revenue generating games. And they're significantly different, and there's a trend between the two of those, which is why I do not think revenue is as important for the success of a video game. But
all right, what do you got for me, man?
At the end of this episode, I'm going to try to get you to agree with my 5 top successful video games of all time.
Okay, let me tamp the audience expectations down.
That shit's not gonna happen.
We're not gonna get a yes.
I'm just saying, one of them's World of Warcraft, but we'll get into the episode. Okay, man.
So your opening statement, please present to the people at home on how revenue is not the most important metric of success when it comes to a
Listen, I
product.
listen, I bounced around with what I think is most important. And what I did was after I decided that World of Warcraft was going to be in my top 5, maybe I shifted around. Maybe I shifted around my percentages
Can you
in order
imagine
to include it.
The Walmart board meeting when they're like, guys, revenue all time
Don't
low,
care.
vibes all time high.
But we know on the Playconomics podcast that I am 100% about the vibes. I'm here for the vibes. So what I'm going to do for you today is break down the top 10 selling games, the top 10 grossing video games, and then the critically 10 best games of all time. First, sales. We've done this on the podcast before, so I'm going to gloss over it. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the top 10
Don't do
selling
that.
games
Don't
of
do
all
that.
time.
People are listening for the first time, Matt. Give me the dirty little details here.
Number 1, Minecraft. Genre sandbox survivals, 300 million sales, 1.8. Hold on. Not getting into the revenue yet. Release date in 2011. Number 2 on this list, GTA 5, 200 million, came out in 2013. Tetris, 100 million sales. Wii Sports, 83 million sales. PUBG, 75 million sales. Mario Kart 8, the 6th best-selling game of all time, 70 million. Red Dead 2, 63 million. Terraria at number 8, 59 million. At number 9, Super Mario Bros. 58 million. And then finally, number 10 is Overwatch at 50 million. So all of these games have over 50 million in sales. What's interesting is that would you consider those games relatively successful, Bobby? Minecraft, GTA 5, Tetris, Wii Sports, PUBG, Mario Kart, Red Dead 2, Terraria, Super Mario Bros., and Overwatch.
Fine.
Overwhelmingly
I'll capitulate.
successful video games. One of them cracked the top 10 on revenue. And it was PUBG.
GTA.
PUBG, no.
Really?
PUBG is the only game to crack top 10 on revenue. Keep in mind, revenue is also adjusted for inflation because they're not single sales numbers. There are 2 on there that are very old games that are completely carried by the fact that they are adjusted for inflation. But PUBG is the only game to be in the top 10 of both of those lists, and I was very, very surprised by that. I thought Minecraft and GTA would totally be on both revenue and sales. Not the case, which is why another reason I did not value revenue above all else. Then we get into revenue. Top 10 grossing video games of all time. Dungeon Fighter Online is number 1. $22 billion. Just out of control. Absolutely out of control. And we have Fortnite at 20 billion. Honor Kings, 19 billion. PUBG, 16 billion. League of Legends, 15 billion. Space Invaders, which is only 14 billion, but when adjusted for inflation, Space Invaders is actually the highest grossing video game of all time at $30 billion. Pac-Man hits 13 billion with 26 billion when adjusted for inflation. Then you have Crossfire, Candy Crush Saga, and then World of Warcraft tops off our top 10 revenue generating video games.
You
the
made this
reason
up.
I swear to God, I got these. I'll share the links. I'll put them in the video.
I believe
These are literally based on factual revenue generating numbers. The reason I didn't value it is because of these games. There are Fortnite, PUBG, League of Legends. There's Pac-Man, there's Space Invaders. These are clearly games that were designed not to be the peak of the powers of the video game industry, but they were clearly designed to keep you in a playing loop so that they strictly generate money. And I think that is where my disdain for using revenue as a metric is. I don't want to consider Candy Crush Saga one of the top 10 video games of all time just because it sold a lot of dollars. Just because it generated a bunch of revenue from people playing this game
PUBG
while
is
they're
the
at
only
the doctors.
crossover between those two. Is what
PUBG is the only crossover between these two. And that's why the fact that these are the only two that are crossing over really does give you the separation between sales numbers and revenue. Would you say, Bobby, just as we're going through this, that the top 10 sales games, Minecraft, GTA, Tetris, Wii Sports, PUBG, Mario Kart 8, Red Dead 2, Terraria, Super Mario Bros., and Overwatch, are overall better games than Dungeon Fighter Online, Fortnite, Honor Kings, PUBG, League of Legends, Space Invaders, Pac-Man, Crossfire, Candy Crush Saga, and World of Warcraft?
I mean, the nihilist in me really wants to die on the hill of Space Invaders and Pac-Man because those have been around the longest and culturally, I feel like, are the most recognizable across.
If you had to pick one game out of both of those top 10 lists to play for the rest of your life, you are not picking any of the you're not picking any of the revenue generators.
But I'm also not 12. I appreciate a good story, and see, this is where it gets. Another topic here for another day. I think Minecraft should be free, but Red Dead 2 should have cost $120. See, because it's a better product in every single way. But then you're playing different,
But those are both on top 10 selling.
Okay.
Neither one of those is on revenue. So we're still getting back to the fact that the games from selling are significantly better.
Goddamn you.
Outside of Fortnite, I would say that most people would pick something from the top 10 video games of all time, or the top 10 selling video games of all time versus revenue. But now we're going to get into the third metric.
Oh, God.
Critically the best games according to Metacritic. Number 1, Ocarina of Time. Number 2 was surprising.
That's insane. That's insane.
You should have seen when I did. I pulled the numbers for user score. What was the best game of all time? And I'm looking everyone in the audience in the eye right now. I want you to go to Metacritic.com and type in what are the best games based on user score ever made, because number 2 is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I want you to all know.
Let the audience sit with that one for a second.
Yeah. I want you to all think about that. And then when you're review bombing a game and you're saying Elden Ring is too hard and that we should lower the difficulty, that Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is the second best video game on the planet since 1957. It's the second best video game on the planet. This is
you had to take a personality quiz to decide what Pokemon you're going to be instead of just
Come on, do better.
Pokemon.
Do better.
You know how many hard resets I had to do to get Cyndaquil?
It's because Cyndaquil's a beta. So, please look up the user score. After this, I'm going to show you the user scores. It's atrocious. Perfect Dark is on there. Perfect Dark 2000 is on the top 10 video games of all time. But the critically acclaimed based on Metacritic, the first one's going to be Ocarina of Time, number 1. Not a huge surprise, in my opinion. Then it was Soul Calibur. Came in at number 2. GTA 4. Super Mario Galaxy. Breath of the Wild. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. And oh my god, I misspoke. Perfect Dark 2000 was on the critically acclaimed best games ever made. In the number 7, 8 spot, Perfect Dark 2000, then Red Dead 2, then GTA 5. While Bobby has an absolute
And this
asthma
is
attack.
for users, right?
No, no. This is critically acclaimed best games according to Metacritic. These
How
are the
is that
highest rated
possible?
games. I'll send you the link. But here we go again. Ocarina of Time number 1, Soul Calibur number 2, GTA 4 number 3, Super Mario Galaxy number 4, Super Mario Galaxy number 2 is number 5, Breath of the Wild, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, Perfect Dark, the one from 2000 on the N64, Red Dead 2, and then GTA 5. Absolutely insane list. Maybe we don't let the critics do it either, but users significantly worse.
How?
So now I want to get into the meat and potatoes. The real reason why. How did I come up with these numbers? The 50% sales, 35% longevity, the 10% critical review, and the 5% revenue. So there's two ways
This is you doing the 55 burgers, 55 fries.
Yep. There's two ways to look at the success of a video game. There's from the board of directors, and then there's from the gamers. Those are the two main pools of people that want the success of a game. The people selling you the game, the people playing the game. So you could look at it, sales and revenue, or bust. If the game doesn't sell really well, if it doesn't generate a lot of money, it's a bust. The quality of the game. How good was it? Is it an absolute masterpiece of a game? Is the gameplay fantastic? The story fantastic? The visuals fantastic? Is it really the perfect game? C, the longevity of the game. How long has this game been relevant? How much did this game do for the video game industry? Longevity and impact. And then there's a middle ground. There's combining all of these together. And we look at how the video games have shaped the industry. Is it the top 10 selling games that have shaped the industry? Is it the revenue generating ones that have shaped the industry? Is it the ones that are critically acclaimed that have shaped the industry? What has really given the top 10 sales, grossing, and the top 10 critically acclaimed? What have they done for the industry? Big three things that I noticed is that revenue is absolutely dominated by PC and mobile. 100% you have
That's
mobile
the problem
game.
there, isn't it? That's
You
the
get
problem there.
when you go full revenue, it's mobile game bullshit at its finest. Then you see in the revenue that it's exclusively multiplayer focused. If it's not a mobile game, it's a game where people are competing against each other, and the game is riddled with microtransactions in order to make it very high dollar value per customer, which I'm not saying it's by no means a bad business model to consider your game a success because it made you a boatload of money. There is a financial aspect.
Some would
of this
argue
game.
that is the only good metric for success.
But yes, but it is determined by your definition of success. Mine is not strictly did it make you a lot of money, because then if that is the case, we have to say that Space Invaders was the best video game of all time. You could say it was the most impactful video game of all time, and I'll let you have that argument. But if you're saying that Space Invaders was literally the best video game you have ever played and all games should try to be Space Invaders, I think that is a bad take. What I also noticed between top 10 sales, top 10 grossing, and the top 10 critically acclaimed is there's very few, and when you don't consider the critically acclaimed piece, there are 0 first party exclusives on top 10 selling and top 10 revenue generating. 0 first party exclusives, which is potentially another episode on are first party exclusives even needed anymore. But then we get into why I chose these. I chose sales, obviously, because it is a financial metric. You can't have a really good video game that doesn't sell. It doesn't make any sense. You need the dichotomy of does really well financially, but also really good game, because you can't get your game to sell more if it's not a good game. And you can't get a bad game to continue selling. Revenue, does it generate revenue? Obviously, it costs $70 a piece. I'm okay with the $70 being the only revenue that game generates. I do not think that the most successful game needs to have a microtransaction or a secondary source of income, a battle pass, microtransactions, things like that, to make it a successful game. It does need those things to be in the top 10 of revenue generating. You can't do it without it. Critical acclaim. I don't trust the critics too much, but I do think for the most part they get the really high scores correct. I think with different genres we kind of get jaded because Pentiment got a 10 out of 10 based on a lot of critical reviews. You're on mute. You're on mute.
No, I'm just trying to hold my. Don't get us started on Pentiment. Okay.
Yes. Well, I don't agree that Pentiment was a 10 out of 10 game. I could see what I found is that the people that do these critical ratings are people that enjoy that specific type of game. So it's basically a 10 out of 10 for that genre. And I'm okay with that when you think about it like that. But a 10 out of 10 for Pentiment is not the same as a 10 out of 10 for Elden Ring. But that's just my opinion based on the genres that I like. So what I did was I wrapped up those things: sales, revenue, critical acclaim, and longevity, because I do think that your ability to stay relevant is significant, because it does drive revenue. But it drives revenue in an organic way where the longer your game is relevant and the longer your game has people continue to purchase it, will translate into both sales and revenue numbers, which I think is very important for success and long-term viability of your brand.
Look, you're making some much more salient points than I thought you were going to bring to the table here today, Matthew.
I'm about to give you my top 5 most successful video games of all time in no particular order. No particular order.
Well, no, there should be a particular order.
There's not. I could not, because then I get into which games do I like. When I start doing the ordering these top 5, I start getting into games that I enjoy. But if you would like me to order them, I will.
I would love you to order
Fine.
them.
Fine. So my top 5 most successful video games of all time. And then, Bobby, what you're going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you my chart for one last time on how I define success of a video game. And you will tell me if you feel it is correct. I made you a nice little pie chart, and I'll put that up for the fans as well.
Pie chart.
So the 5th most successful video game of all time is GTA 5. It's sales and revenue. I didn't go over. So for GTA 5, its sales was 200 million and its gross revenue was 8 billion. So it is just out of the top 10. It's number 19 on the all-time grossing rank. So it's not far off. I'm not, just because they don't cross over in the top 10 doesn't mean that GTA 5 is in like number 30.
Okay.
But it's number 19. So I'll put GTA 5 at number 5. It's extremely high sales, extremely high revenue, overwhelming critical acclaim, overwhelming user acclaim, and it is a great game by any metric. Any way that you want to look at GTA 5, it is considered a success, and the longevity of the brand. When a new GTA comes out, and we're seeing this with GTA 6, everybody stops. It's marked on everyone's calendar.
The world stops spinning for a brief period of time.
The brand of GTA, and was wholeheartedly strengthened by GTA 5 and GTA Online. So it's not like, oh, this is the 6th iteration. It's Fast and the Furious 6. They're not as good anymore. They're getting better. GTA 5 did wonders for GTA as a brand, putting it at number 5. Number 4. See, this is where the fanboy's coming in, because I want to put something else at number 1, but I'm going to put it at number 4 because I think it truly belongs at number 4. I take it back. I'm going to go full fanboy. Number 4 is Fortnite as the most successful video game of all time. Originally, PUBG is the only thing that shows up in the top 10 for both.
Mm-hmm.
Fortnite is unequivocally a better game than PUBG. And in order to do that, you need to be in the top 5 most successful video games of all time, even though you're like somewhere in the top 20 for sales and revenue. It beats out PUBG because it is just flatly a better game. It
Okay, fair enough.
it completely transformed and owns an entire genre. It is the battle royale genre. I know PUBG made more money dollar-wise. I know that PUBG I take it back. It did not make more. It sold more, but it got completely blown out of the water in revenue by Fortnite. Completely owns the battle royale genre, is the gold standard of that genre, continues to improve and adapt, makes itself relevant at all times, and is the complete king of marketing. And I'm giving it a little bit of benefit of the doubt here because we haven't seen it since it only came out in 2017. I am highly optimistic on this game's longevity.
Agreed.
I think we are seeing this game for the next 10, 15 years. And I think it is significantly harder to keep a live service game as a relevant cultural icon than it is to keep a very, very good, already established IP as a longevity play. I think it is very, very impressive for Fortnite to maintain its longevity, but I do think it will do it. Number 3 is going to be Tetris. It's completely iconic, extremely high sales, stayed relevant forever. The ROI for revenue is just stupid. It's one thing
ridiculous.
to like it's one thing to have revenue be something that is a metric. It is another thing for literal floating blocks on a single screen with no other players and very low development needed to churn out billions of dollars. Pound for pound, this is 100% the best revenue generating game. When you say, what did it take to make and continue to produce this game? Very, very low. It's Tetris. They're sliding blocks. Not difficult. But really cool game. Also, its longevity is impossible. It is forever going to be isolated as it is a video game mainstay for the rest of time. When the Xbox, whatever they're going to name it, the PS6, the new Nintendo, all of our phones forever we will always have Tetris. And for that, we thank you and put you at number 3. Number 2 is Super Mario Bros. It created Mario as a character and a franchise. Extremely high sales and revenue. Is the franchise formula relatively similar. It's basically stayed the same over the last 40-ish years.
No,
and
see,
overall,
that's where I push back.
On Mario?
Yeah, it hasn't stayed the same. You know why?
Why?
Because he's not just jumping over mushrooms anymore, man. He's driving a car. He's playing golf. He's playing baseball. He's playing tennis. He's playing baccarat at the casino.
They leveraged so much out of the. Yes, I understand.
He's having parties.
I understand that there are spin-offs to the Mario series, but the core platformer, either the 2D or 3D, relatively the same since their first iteration. Yes, they have the Mario Kart, they have the Mario Party, and those are very high selling. but they're all based on the success of the 3D platformer and the 2D platformer. You don't have Mario Kart without Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. Continues to keep itself relevant, and you continue to see its impact on the Super Mario franchise as a whole. And overall, it's just a solid game that everyone is able to play.
Can you imagine if they did it in reverse?
What do you mean? If they started with Mario Kart and built out a whole world?
An entire
Where it was Mario Party and they built out a whole world?
Yes. They're like,
I would love
this party game seems to be doing really well. What if
what if we made a 2D platformer out of it?
what if we just Oh my god.
And
I can't wait for Astrobot to take over and be bigger than Mario.
Last but not least, the number one most successful video game of all time. It shaped a genre and stayed relevant for 20 years in a very difficult landscape and through very difficult times. I personally love this game and feel that it is in fact perfect. It's been around literally 5 ever. The business model, 5 ever. Not even 4 ever. 5 ever. The business model potentially shaped an industry. It's used subscriptions, it's used battle passes, it uses microtransactions. You don't need to interact with those things, but for the C-suite executives that listen to the podcast, they're in the game, so it's making you the revenue. You cannot talk about video games without discussing the number one most successful video game of all time, World of Warcraft. We had to do it. We had to put it there. Originally, these were in no specific order. You forced me to put them in specific order, so I'm putting World of Warcraft at the top because it's my personal favorite. Bobby, explain to the people how I'm 100% correct, and then I will share my screen and show you my chart for one last... Actually, hold on. Let me share my screen, show you my chart for the last time.
Wow.
All right, Bobby. You should be able to see it.
Sadly.
50% sales, 35% longevity, 10% critical review, 5% revenue. Tell them it's a perfect list. Tell them it's a perfect pie chart. Let the people know.
So are you asking me to yes or no?
Agree or disagree with this pie chart is the success of a video game, and the 5 that I listed are in fact the 5 most successful games based on this metric, and the metric is correct.
So first thing we have to prove is your framework correct?
Yep. Unequivocally, yes. There's one spot that I will give you.
You said a lot of numbers.
I will give you an opportunity to switch critical review and revenue. And does this list make more sense for you then?
No, because Pentiment got a 10.
Fuck. No, I'm saying switch it. Make revenue 10, critical review 5. Then is it perfect?
Yes.
You're struggling because it's perfect. You're struggling because it's perfect.
Yes. God damn, you got a yes out of me on the first episode.
Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome.
Now, what are your thoughts on the top 5 most successful video games of all time?
Well, look, I think they kind of speak for themselves. I think before we had this conversation that I hadn't considered how much zeitgeist played into it versus dollar for dollar revenue. It's crazy that Grand Theft Auto 5 isn't number 1 on both of these, because just by
I agree.
I think that it would be.
Yeah, I pulled them both from a couple different websites that all seem to say the same thing.
Look, man, this is the 2 astronauts looking at the moon.
I feel vindicated.
But I'm glad that 0 Xbox properties are on here. I know there's no PlayStation
Minecraft.
ones. No, come on. Let's not. Let's calm down.
It's and World of Warcraft and
Okay.
Overwatch.
You're better than
What are
this.
you talking about? What are you talking about?
this.
Xbox is all over this.
Okay.
All over this.
Matt, bring this plane in for a landing before it careens into the ground.
Did you agree with me? Do you think that video games, and I'll give you the critical review and revenue swap. Do you think that sales should play 50% in the success of a video game, then its longevity at 35%, revenue at 10%, and then critical review a small little 5%? Because we don't really trust Metacritic, do we? And we certainly don't trust you. If you like what you heard here, remember to like, follow, subscribe so that you never miss a single conversation that me and Bobby have. Make sure to leave a comment below on whether or not you think that I'm completely out of pocket or 100% correct, because I am. Follow us on all social medias, and remember, as always,
Happy gaming.